Hi guys, welcome back to Gary's Weathering Bench. Today we're going to be looking at this Bachmann bolster wagon that we have here, which is straight out of the box. Nothing's been done to it. The only thing that I lied, the only thing that has been done to it is it's had to spray the old Testors lacquer. That's just so it's a base coat for when we start applying the powders that I use. Now, what I am going to do, which this wagon lacks, is a few different colour planks on top of the wagon there. With that, I'm going to just touch up a few with a little bit of Matt 118 Humbrol, Matt 67, a grey. Unfortunately my little tin of grey Humbrols are all dried up, so I'm going to use this XF12, which is a Tamiya paint. Hopefully that'll do the trick. Just highlight just a couple of the wooden sections there. Look, I'll get onto that now, and when I come back it should all be done, hopefully all dry. Now, whilst the paint's drying on that wagon there, you can see I've roughly painted it up. I got asked, how do I go about doing wheels? So what I've done here is taken the wheels out of the bogie bolster, separated them from the bogies, and I've just used a bit of the old spray mat that I've got here. Now what I've done there is just laid them up on a piece of track upside down, as such. Just give it a spray one side, turn them around, give them a spray on the other side. Now that should be enough there to hold up a mix of powders. Now what I'm going to demonstrate here is how we apply it. It's pretty much simple how I've done my other wagons. What I'm going to do is a little bit of spray into the container, as you can see. Take the trusty old red brush again, dip it in there, pick up some of that. Now I've got a little bit of this red brown that we've had before. It's a bit of a dirty, rusty track grime almost, you could say. So I'm just going to dab the tyres with it, wheels I should say. Do that one, do that one. Throw them back down onto the truck so they don't roll away. And again. Hopefully this will bind in. There's no top coat on here whatsoever. And we'll see how these turn out. Whoop, run away there. Let's put him back here. Now next one, just dab it on. The colour's getting a bit thin. I think we'll have enough on the brush there to keep us going anyway. You can see a marked difference in the colour of the wheels there. Okay, and we'll just get a bit more colour on here, and the last one, just dab, 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 roll it around to the other side. What we do now is just wait, see how they turn out after they've dried, and we'll go from there. We'll have a look at the bogies. Actually, we'll have a look at the bogies right now. Now, as you know, the bogies tend to be a bit of a dusty, dry colour. So what I might do here is still use our frame dirt. You could say that we've got here our dirty rust, and we might add a little bit of the lighter brown to it, which is this one here. So we won't need too much of it, I doubt. So we'll just plonk a little bit in, see how we go. That should be sufficient. We'll just give that bit of a mix around in here with what's left in here, just to highlight the colours a little bit more. That should do it. Using the same brush that we used before, we'll apply a little bit more colour, isopropyl in our container. Done. Dab again. You'll see a bit of black coming out in that from what we've used previously. Back into here, and we'll just run around the bogies with this lightly. The bogies have already been resprayed with the rest of the wagon, so hopefully this will take it to pretty much like the rest will. We can always pick out and highlight the springs. That would be a lighter rust colour, more to the red or the orange. So we'll just see how that fares. And again on the other one, go across the top, the ends, don't forget that. Roll it around, ends, top, and the bogie side frames. And a little bit around the bottom here too. they get dirty everywhere, so do the whole lot. That should do it. See how we go. Just go back to that first one because I missed the tops. Dab it on. Hopefully that should be enough. Back on the end, underneath. See a slight variation and change there. It's only very minor, but it's not too bad. We'll leave it at that for now. Just let them dry. Whilst we're on the frame dirt here, we could always go along and do the truss rods and the underframe of the wagon. I'm going to use the same paintbrush, apply a bit more spray into our container, and we'll just wet up again into here and just start applying it to the bottom of the frames. Just ever so lightly, just get it in there. Just watch out for any painted parts like this, you know. They will get dirty, but we can dirty them up with a little bit of dirt afterwards. Come down the frame, the truss rods I should say, up around here. It's only very minimal, but you will see the difference once the wagon's been put back together again. Doesn't matter if a little bit tracks up onto the actual steel frame of the bolster wagon there, the sides. We'll rotate that around. We'll do the other side. Down on the frames, everything else. And don't forget these brackets and all that underneath there as well. Everything gets dirty, as you can imagine, all the track dirt and whatever that flies up. And it's more of a rusty brown this, so we'll see how that fares. Just back along here again. Don't forget to do the ones on the inside further. And you've got to do both sides, inside and out. You can see the dirt starting to dry up on this frame already. Not a bad looking colour. More of a brown than anything else, but that's fine. One area we haven't touched on yet is the buffers in the ends there. Just apply a bit through here too. Look, don't really worry about getting it onto the ends there. We'll just run that in. Turn it around on the other ends. A little bit more colour. Just drag it down. There's one of the older Bachmann bogies, Bogie Bolster Wagons, that isn't fitted with NEM pockets, unfortunately. So it's going to be one of those ones that I will fiddle around with at a later date and throw some pockets into it, or throw some KD number 5 boxes and a longer shank KD coupler itself. That's not too bad around there. It's all covered fairly well. Just dab a little bit more under here and there, onto these frame sections, and I think we'll leave it at that for the time being. Whoop, there goes a wheel onto the ground. I'm just going to plonk that upside down on those pins now. Leave it there, and we'll see how we go. We'll be back shortly. Cheers. Okay, the paint here on the wagon it's a touch dry, still a little bit tacky, but bearable enough to work with. So what I'm going to do now is apply some of the black wash. That's basically just to go around the inside of the frames here. We'll droop it over the sides here down onto the rusty chassis. Try and get it in between all these timber panels and all that we've got here. And then after that, we'll let that go off a little bit. And we're going to use pretty much a medium grey weathering powder. And we're just going to give the whole timbers a dust over, because as you know, timbers aren't always perfect like that, perfect brown. They tend to have a bit of you could say sun weathering, where they tend to bleach out a little bit, you know. After that we'll just apply a couple of other colours, you know, a little bit of black dust here, a bit of brown, the tan that we've used previously and all that, just to lift the timbers on the wagon. Okay. What we'll do, we'll grab our links and we're just going to put a few drops in here and there. Just do one section at a time, it's probably going to be easier. Using our broad brush that we used earlier on the other models, we're just going to drag that through just to bring that colour down a little bit. Now, you don't need a lot of it, but make sure you work it into the corners and all that. These lower corner sections we can actually get a little bit more ink in there. Just to highlight some of those corners where all the rubbish builds up. At the same time, do the bottom side. Let it build up. It gets a little bit mucky and grubby in there. And also along the actual bolster section, you could call it here. The larger timbers, will just bring that in and up. Then we'll carry on down through the other sections of the wagon. Oh, maybe a little bit too heavy there, but that'll spread around. Just jam it up into the corners first, back along the sides, back through. Give it a bit of a brushing through, so hopefully it will settle in. As you can see, it's already darkened our timbers there a little bit. We might have enough here on the brush to just to run through on what we've done on the next section. You can just see the paint's just picking up the wash a little bit there. A couple of more drops. And we'll just run that in. We'll actually push it up. Now as you can see, I'm actually taking it up the side of the wagon, the actual bolster frame there, and back this way too. It's actually a little bit heavy on there. Newton's law, gravity runs downhill, so that's what happens. Now just rotate your wagon around and apply a little bit more of the wash through there. We'll just carry on to the next section. A couple of drops. Push it in. Get it all around. But probably a little bit too heavy there, so I'll transfer that over to the other side. And we'll just run it into the corners. That is a little too heavy there, but hey, you know, these things get dirty in different places, don't they, you know? So it doesn't really matter. We could even flick up the sides of the wagon, so what I'm going to do while the brush is still wet is give that a run up the side here. You can see that coming on there, just what's loaded in the brush. By doing it this way and building it up along the, you'd say the top lip there, once we turn the wagon upside down we should get some streaking that runs back down. Now touch up those white painted parts too with a little bit of the wash as well, and don't forget across the back of the wagon. Now like I've mentioned before on my other videos, it is easy to hold the wagon now, you know, now that we've the weathering powders are dried in, have absorbed into the base coat, the enamel coat that we've put under. Oh no, I won't say enamel, but I'll say a base matte coat, so we can handle it with the truss rods. Now we're almost done there. Come up through the side here. That end's done. Rotate it back around, and we'll just give that a flick in there. Hopefully you can see that there. Now we'll just let that, just touch it up lightly through here, just dab it a bit. Not too heavy, just enough to break up the grey on there really, that's all it's about. And if you have a look inside you can see in some areas she's still a bit thick, especially down this end. We'll just run across these timbers here, into the corners. Oh, hitting the tripod there with the paintbrush. Hopefully we can see that. We'll just dab that in, across there, and back down this one. Just throw it on anyhow. Doesn't matter if you're a bit rough or not so rough, you know, if you want to be a bit precise, but hey, it's weathering, it's got to be dirty, it's got to be rough. Alright, just run around the top of the actual bolster frame, and you can see it's starting to settle in here a little bit, you know. We can just probably just lighten that up a tad, and we will leave it at that for now. We'll give that a couple of moments to dry before we start applying any powders in here, because we want to apply the powders while this is still a little bit damp. That's why it'll also help bind into the black. But as you can see through here, it's already taken those colours that I painted on down a little bit. So I'm just going to rub a bit more into this one, this end section here. We'll just go across strokes. Hopefully it'll settle into the timbers, into the you could say the lines between the timbers, the gaps between the timbers. So we'll let that go and we'll let that dry. While that's drying, let's go back to the bogies themselves. Now over here I've got a little bit of the the orange dust that I was using before. Just grab my little container. As you can see, there's a little bit of isopropyl left back in there, so we're just going to dab our small brush, pick up some of this orange here and just touch up the springs. Hopefully you can see this, just enough on the springs there. Not much of a paintbrush this one, but it does the trick. You know, it's only got a few filaments left on it, but hey, we don't want to flood the colour in on here, we just want to highlight it. Now we can also highlight something down the bottom here, underneath where the bogies, where the bolts are and all that. Just dab it on ever so lightly. Now hopefully that'll be enough to highlight them. Round to the other side, I might just get some more isopropyl into the container. That's a good thing about the spray unit, you can just spray out what you want without spraying out too much. Dab there, pick up some powders, and again onto the springs onto the other side. Now if you think you're going a bit too heavy, just take your other brush and just flick it off. While it's still like this and it's a little bit dry, you can reduce the amount of powders that's actually on there, so it ain't too thick, you know, compared to some of the other wagons that I've done before where we want to build up crust layers in it. Here we don't really want to build up crust layers, we just want to highlight the springs and what have you, you know. We can dab a little bit around the boxes here, the bogie boxes, bearing boxes I should say, and that'll probably be enough. Have a look on the other side, you can do a little bit the same there. Go a little bit more, just dab dab dab, especially around where the boxes are bolted onto the bogies themselves, the actual bearing boxes. A little bit more powder, a little bit more of that, or isopropyl and powder. That might be a bit heavy there, but hey, we'll leave it that one. Like I said before on my other video, you got to know when to stop. So next one. Again, we'll start on the springs. Rub a bit into the springs there. This bogie, when you compare it to the other one, slightly different hue, which is natural anyway. Not everything weather's the same, but one could have been in a bit more muck or whatever. So we'll just go around the outside of the box here, just tapping on. You can see the colour just starting to build up around there. Around on the other side, just dab it here, underneath, where you expect a little bit of rust to hang. Maybe just a bit on this, underneath that frame here, actual top of the bogie. Just highlight a little bit in there. Now it's only very subtle, but it will jump out at you later on anyway, so less is more, you could say. Hear that a lot in way up model railways. And just down underneath here, a little bit more powder, a bit more colour. So, and we'll leave it at that. That should do it, you know. Okay, well there the bogey's done. As you can see on this one, it has come out quite bright there. So what I'm going to do is just take my other brush that I had before and just thin it down a little bit. Now it's not thinning down that much, so we've got a little bit of the brown here that we had earlier. Just apply that onto there. That'll tone it down. We'll just pick up a touch of isopropyl on there, just to thin that down a little bit. And how's the other side? Yep, you can see it's that's not too bad really. Just touch it in there a tad, and that's it. We'll leave the bogies as it. We can almost put the wheels back into those bogies and put them aside now. We'll see how our wagon's going. It's starting to dry up a little bit. As you can see, we're getting these the runs down along the side here and all that kind of stuff. It's almost time to apply some powders, rub them in, blend the powders up to the side of the wagon, dust and rubbish that's built up against there. So we'll let that go for a few more minutes, and until then. Look, it's been about 10 minutes or so since I applied the inks, maybe 15. As you can see, it's sort of dried to a bit of a bit of a dull coat, which is actually what we're after. We don't want things to be jumping out of us. If you look down the side of the body there where we flicked it over the edges, it's made that fairly grotty along there too, although I need to paint that up a little bit with a bit of weathering colours. Also down this side too. What I want to do is actually flick some sort of brown into it a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to be using the more of the dirt brown rather than the rust colour this time. So a little bit of isopropyl in our container. We're just going to ever so lightly just pick up enough colour there. There's actually a bit on here that we can. As you can see, there's a bit of red still in the colours there, but we're just going to lightly just every now and then just give a bit of a colouring through here. Nothing too harsh. Just flick it down, drag it down, let it move around on its own. You know, so don't let it. Don't cover the whole thing. That's the main thing. Just every now and then you can just sort of see it highlighting some of these corners here and all that. You know, where you'd expect dirt to accumulate. So we'll just throw a bit more in there. Pick up a bit more of the dust here, and just throw it in amongst the corners. Especially where these tie down sections are, these pole sections, that's where you're going to find a lot of dirt there. And if we do it like so, that should do that. We're going to leave that as that. Rotate round to the other side, just pick up a little bit more of that, a little bit more colour, not too much colour, as you know, so I'm just going to highlight around here, dab it on. You can see the colour building up in there, just enough. Now just through here. Now while I'm there, I'm going to give that bit of a dirty tinge to it. You know, we don't want it perfectly white, do we? Just run back in through here, mainly around these bolster or tie down sections, I suppose, where you hook in some chains. Now what we will do is every now and then we'll just dab it on, try and get some colour in through here. Not a great deal, just in amongst the greys, in amongst that black wash that we put on earlier, and we're not going to go any more than that. Now also on the inside, the corner of the wagons, you know, these corners here is where you'd expect to find dust and dirt building up. So I'll turn that around so we can see it in there, and we'll just dab a little bit in through here where you'd expect to find it. We'll go around all these sections and just dab a bit of dust in. Run that up that side a little bit. As you can imagine, it'll all float around to those sides. If you're a little bit, if you think you've gone a little bit heavy-handed, just take a cotton tip and give a bit of a rub, and that'll just blend it in a little bit more. We'll pick up a little bit more colour, a bit more here, a bit more powder. Oh, a little bit heavy there, but that's okay. We can sort that out again with the brush. We can just drag that down a little bit. And I'll just highlight it, same in that corner there, just drag it out a little bit, and we're just going to start building these colours up. A bit more up here. As you can see with the isopropyl going on, it's carrying the colour with it, so we'll get that desired effect, or close enough to what we want. You know, I'm sure from the old 3-foot rule from a distance, it should look the part anyway. I'm just going to rub some of this back in using the cotton tip. And that might do that for now. Actually, we haven't done this corner up here, so a little bit more powder. Just dab it in through the corners. It's always good to get onto the powders when they're wet to give them a spread around with the cotton tip. So we'll just drag it down a bit through here and back up. Okay. Now we'll allow that to dry a little bit. And what I do want to do is get the white dusting over the top. You know, we're getting pretty much close to finish now, so I'm just going to give that brush a bit of a flick on the cloth, just to carry some of that brown off there. Now, our isopropyl's down to nothing again. Let's give it a bit more of a hit. There we go. Now, mid-grey. It's a fairly flat looking grey. We're not going to apply this too heavy. What we want to do is dab the brush in, just pick up enough, tap it off a little bit. Now we're just going to just lightly feather it onto the timber, just here and there. We're starting to get that weathered look, and that sort of worn, sun bleached timber look. Actually, what I'll do, I'll actually put a little bit on there. So we can just bring a little bit more powder out, and just keep dragging it down the model. It'll highlight sooner or later. Just come out in the wood, in the finish, I should say. And a little bit more here. Like I say, if you're unhappy with it, take to it with the cotton tip again, and just try and highlight some of the timbers in there. You know, bring it up here a little bit more. What you want to do is run the paintbrush with the grain. As you can see, there's some arcing in that, so we'll just go over that and we'll just neaten that up a little bit. Keep your strokes consistent, keep your strokes straight. They are individual planks, and we don't want a different finish on it. We don't want it all curled and what have you, so that's what we're looking for. And just a little bit more dust in here. We're just going to run some back this way, and just a little bit every now and then, just throw a bit onto the onto these larger bearer sections. Well, overall, I think we're just about there on this. The only thing that needs doing are the stanchions here. Give them a bit of a tidy up. As you can see, the grey is starting to dry up a little bit stronger here than what we probably anticipated, but I think it's got that weathered look. Maybe we'll just highlight a little bit more down here. We're running out of powder on here, so we'll just grab a little bit more. Throw it around, throw it on. Like I said, if you're unhappy with it, we'll take the other end of that. That's, as you can see, it's pretty much stuck on pretty good there. Now also you can see that the ink itself has settled nicely into between the planks. Now I'm not so happy with these sections up here, so what I'm going to do is dampen the cotton stick and just take a little bit of that off. Just dab it on here and there, and that'll be enough to take it off, to thin it down. Just run anything off the edges, because what happens when you do that, it tends to build up on the edges of the timber. So what we might do is just peel that off there. Have a dib. We're going to leave it at that for now. What can we do next? Basically, it's just the stanchions. Now with the stanchions again, we'll just use the old brush that I've got here. I've got an old thin one, a little bit, there you go, a little bit damaged. We're just going to dampen into that. Pick up some of this red brown that we got here from previously, and we'll just touch these up. Doesn't have to be too precise. We're not putting too much onto these. It's just to highlight them a little bit. Using that darker brown that we used before. You can probably just see coming through now. Just run around the other side. Pick up a bit of that. Back on. Don't really have to go right around it. The isopropyl will carry the colour around. A little bit more red now, I think. Just every now and then, we'll just highlight them a little bit redder. Typical bit of rust on it. Also, down around where they meet the timber, you can see it's a larger section down there. We can actually, not too much, just every now and then we'll just throw it on. Actually, now you can see the colour coming through on these stanchions a little bit clearer. Hopefully you can see that on the camera, on the video. And there we have it. That's pretty much, I'm pretty happy with that. Whoops. Now I've already dropped the bogies, or dropped the wheels back into the bogies, so we can actually plonk them back on. Here they are here, already ready to go. We'll drop them back on. Simple clip fit. 1, 2, and there you have it. A weathered Bachmann Bogie Bolster Wagon. All done. Doesn't look too bad. You can always touch up some of these other areas later on at a later date. But overall, you know, what's that? Maybe 25 minutes and you got yourself a fairly heavily distressed looking wagon. Hope you found it useful. Cheers, Gary.